Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Fireside Chat. This is our 93rd, where I'm in conversation with a member of the Order of Bards, Ovates, and Druids. And I will start, as I usually do, with a prayer for peace. Gomara Siacon ar fud na crinne. Gomara Siacon in our Jaili agus in our Jirha. Gonairi Lin, Lenarcuj Garamaka, Gamij Buichas Jev Cuivdacha is Spirit Cuivdacha. May peace prevail on earth. May peace prevail in our homes and in our countries. May our missions be accomplished. We thank you, guardian spirits and guardian deities. As the fever of day calms towards twilight, may all that is strained in us come to ease. We pray for all who suffered violence today. May an unexpected serenity surprise them. For those who risk their lives each day for peace, may their hearts glimpse providence at the heart of history. That those who make riches from violence and war might hear in their dreams the cries of the lost. That we might see through our fear of each other a new vision to heal our fatal attraction to aggression. That those who enjoy the privilege of peace might not forget their tormented brothers and sisters. That the wolf might lie down with the lamb, that our swords be beaten into plowshares, and no hurt or harm be done anywhere along the Holy Mountain, with thanks to John O'Donoghue. So you're all welcome. Just let me know where you're from West Yorkshire, Washington, North Carolina, lovely, Norfolk Island, Australia, Highlander, you're up very early, and South Wales, Ardnamercan, lovely, in Scotland, Kentucky, Penzance and Cornwall, lovely, Crouch End, London, Northamptonshire, Maine, Belgium, Portugal, Switzerland. Lovely. It's just lovely to see you all again. And Colorado. So this evening we're going to Ireland. We are going to Palace Green in County Limerick. And let me introduce my guest this evening, who's Diane Howe. Diane, you're so welcome to this Fireside Chat.
Good evening, Eimear, and everyone that's watching. Thank you for having me on board. It's nice to be here. Lovely island, raining again.
Indeed. So, you're in Palace Green, County Limerick. So, just let us know what your landscape is like.
It's actually quite beautiful. Not at all what I was expected, because when we first moved over to Ireland, we moved into County Kerry. And everybody knows that County Kerry has beautiful scenery, and I'd always heard of it as the crown, the jewel in Ireland's crown, and it truly is beautiful. And the only things I'd ever heard about Limerick was that it was referred to as Stab City, and it had a bad reputation and things like that. But then we got the opportunity to move out here, and it's so beautiful. The scenery out here easily rivals Kerry. We have Lugar just down the road, which is gorgeous, and the city itself is really it's kind of cosmopolitan and open and modern and really, really nice. So I actually like it, and stab would be the last word that I would use to describe Limerick City. And the people are great. They have such a good sense of humor as well, so friendly. I really like it here.
So you mentioned Lochgur. Is that what you said earlier?
Yeah.
Then you have that's a beautiful place because it's filled with lots and lots of very interesting stories about Anya. And then you have it's this down south. There they claim it's the largest stone circle, but in Donegal, they claim that Beltane Stone Circle is the largest stone circle in Ireland. So.
Really? I didn't know there was rivalry, right? Well, then maybe Lugar's got the prettiest one, I think. Because the stones, no two are the same shape, and there's lots of little nooks and crannies when you're walking around. And I always seem to find different ones each time I go. And then there's a little covered bit where there's natural quartz crystals growing, which is quite nice as well.
And the alignment is at Bealtaine, isn't it?
It is, yes. Yeah.
At the sunrise, is it? Okay.
It is, yes. Yes, it is. Sorry, my dog's pushing my chair away again. I have an Alaskan Malamute who likes to try and get on my knee. She would like to be a poodle, but she's not.
I just saw her tail there just around behind you. So, judging by your
Well,
accent, you're not Irish. And so, where do you come from and what brought you to Ireland?
right. I'm originally from Manchester, but my parents left Manchester when I was 16 because my father was a musician. He was a very good musician. He was an organist. And he got a holiday season at a summer camp in North Wales. And at the time, I was learning to play the drums. I was the first female drummer in Manchester.
Ooh.
And so we got the season between us to be the backing group and moved to North Wales. We did 2 seasons there, and then we grew up, families. I had a family, I got married, moved to the Midlands, and then I wanted to live in Ireland. Long story short, I met my second husband. My first husband met somebody else. My second husband, his father's from Dublin, his grandparents are from Dublin. As I was growing up, I didn't know my father's history, but all the lullabies he used to sing me were Toralura and all the old Irish ones. And I don't know, there was just something in me that I had to come to Ireland. And so we did. We moved here 15 years ago. And it was on a whim. Once all my children had grown up, got to college age, I was no longer responsible for them. I thought, right, it's my turn now. So we moved over here. And it's been one crazy adventure after another.
Oh, brilliant.
I learned how to be a sheep farmer. I can deliver lambs. We first stayed as a farm. My husband helped out with the cows. I learnt that because I had small hands, I could get inside a sheep that was maybe carrying 3 or 4 lambs and unravel them and pull them out one at a time and all that kind of thing. I fell madly in love with sheep. Sounds quite sad, really, doesn't it? But I do. I had a flock of 10 of them. They all had names. They would all sit down like dogs. I was like Mary had a little lamb.
Brilliant. So, a sheep midwife.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
A sheep midwife, yes, that's what I've been doing. Amongst that and the Druidry, which kind of went hand in hand because I've always had the love of the land, the love of the animals, and then I got it all when I came to Ireland.
So, did you discover
Because,
Druidry before you came over to Ireland, or
I
were
did.
you?
Yeah, it was back in the late 80s, early 90s that I joined OBOD, so quite a long time ago. I did my Bardic grade when I was living in the Midlands, quite a built-up area, but we had some nice woods and forests around there. I spent time there. Then halfway through the Ovate grade, I think I was, when we moved over to Ireland. And then I did the Druid grade the first year we were here in 2007. I finished that one. So I spread it out over the years. But I wanted to kind of, at the same time as learning the grocery and all that and attending the camps in the UK, I also wanted to learn more about the land because I didn't really feel as if I knew enough. And it all came together when we came over to Ireland.
What was it? Oh, yes, okay, we hear you.
Sorry.
Don't worry. What was it that you discovered, or what was it about Ireland that somehow opened that door for you? That you discovered more?
Without sound, I don't know, it's going to sound very corny, but there's a kind of magic here that I haven't felt before. In England, I found that I worked mainly with God energy. I was very influenced by, like a lot of people, by the Robin of Sherwood series that was on during the 70s, and the Hunter and all that. So very, very much into the God energy and the energies of Albion and the mysteries there and the Knights of the Round Table, all the Arthurian legends. I have books and books about that. But then there was still something that wasn't quite right. And when we moved over here, we moved over on a bonfire night. So it was November, it was dark, it was very cold and wet. And as we were driving into, I think it was Kerry area or Cork Kerry Peninsula, I saw the shape of the hillside. And it looked for all the world like a woman lay on her side. But I could then see this big pair of boobs. And I thought, well, that's a bit strange. I'd just woken up. And as it became lighter and they became clearer, I was looking at them through the window. I thought, that's a goddess. I'm sure that's a goddess. It must be. She's lay there watching over Ireland. And I thought, is she dead? No, she's not dead. She's asleep. She's pretending to be asleep. She's watching. And it wasn't until the next day when we settled in and we went to some friends' houses who we'd been visiting the week before. And they said, oh, that's the Paps. Everybody knows about the Paps. And then they told me the story. And I thought, well, great, because I found that out for myself before being told. So maybe I'll get some answers here. And that's the way it's been. The strangest things have happened.
Go on.
Pardon?
Go on. The strangest things have happened.
Well, I have horses, and I hadn't looked into Celtic mythology because, to be honest, it looked a bit complicated. Every book I've ever picked up, the words look so hard to read, and the names, and I didn't think I would be able to understand them. So I've tended to learn more about the Welsh, but I wanted to know about the Irish. And then this one particular day, I was clearing the field, and I turned around on the middle of my shovel. I was doing some horse poop removing from the field. There was an acorn sat there, and there was nowhere it could have come from. It was just perched. And I thought, well, that's strange. So I took it in, and I looked up what it meant. And the only association I could find was with a goddess, I don't know if I'm going to say this correctly, Maca.
Yeah, Maca.
And she is linked, with horses. And since then, her energy has become stronger and stronger. And I've kept that acorn. I have a 4-year-old small tree now of it. And each year around this time, more so around Christmas, her energy seemed to get stronger and stronger. And I really, I read up her story, and I want to go up north and see where she was. I mean, Maca, isn't it? The field, and yeah, I don't, like I said, I don't know how to say them, but yes, it's really right. And it's really opened my eyes to working with the feminine energies more so than the masculine energies, and how powerful they are as well, but in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like an iron fist in a velvet glove.
Can you repeat that? Can you repeat that?
It's like an iron fist in a velvet glove.
Okay.
Whereas with the men, you've just got the brute force. I wouldn't say ignorance, but you know what I mean, the brute force, and they're in your face. Whereas the females, they seem to come in. The Irish female goddess seem to be very, very powerful, very strong women in their own right. But they've also got the softness when they need it.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems to encompass everything for me. And yeah. Well, Irish women generally tend to be like that, don't they? I mean, all the ones I've met, because we've been in rural areas, you know, they're ladies that would carry massive shopping bags for miles and think nothing of it, and fling a big son over their shoulder if he's in the pub too late, slap him on the bum and put him into bed. There's just so much that goes on over here that it's such a culture shock, but a wonderful one. In a fabulous way.
Wonderful. Have you climbed the Paps?
No, I haven't. I haven't been that close. I didn't know you could climb them. Can you?
Yeah, Howard and I did it. We climbed the Paps. Oh, my first in 2010, and it's incredible. We went up, one down, up, and the interesting thing about the cairns on the top, most cairns are rounded. Soft rounded. These are like erect nipples on the top of the Pap. And
really?
I remember it was August, and there was lots of bog cotton all the way up.
Oh,
and
I
then
love that.
Streaming, there was water coming down all the time, and it looked like it was breast milk. It was just fascinating because you had the bog cotton, which is the color of breast milk, and so there's this water coming down, and you think, oh my God, there's all this breast milk coming down. And it was interesting because up at the top of one of them, I can't remember which one, there was a pond, and there was frog spawn there, and that was in August, which is very late.
Right.
So just
Yes,
amazing.
it is.
Absolutely wonderful.
Oh,
It's a magical place.
is
If
it a
anyone else,
hard climb? Mm,
I didn't. It's hard work. Well, you need a moderate level of fitness because it's straight. It's
right,
not a gradual ascent. It's like that,
right.
up and down.
You're talking about someone who struggles to get up the touring Glastonbury at the moment.
Okay, no, if you can't get up the tour and leave,
Okay.
look at them. But Leslie Harvey, hi Leslie, lovely to see you again.
Mm.
She says, "Oh, I live in Armagh, not from Navan Fort, the seat of Maca. Maybe we can meet when you visit
Mm,
her." So there's a nice invitation. So that's Leslie Harvey.
that would be great. Thank you, Leslie. Very much so.
And then
Yeah.
Armagh is easy. That's nothing like the tour. So you can
Oh,
visit.
very good. Yes, because I feel I have to go to that one, definitely.
Brilliant.
Yes, very strongly with her.
So
Because it's kind of
go on.
no, go on.
No, there's a bit of a gap.
No, right. I was just going to say it's brought me full circle from where I started, which the other week I was reflecting on what I should have done years ago in writing up my Druid grade after I'd finished it. I never did the review of it, and I was thinking maybe I should do it because it's kind of brought me full circle, because I started my spiritual pathway in spiritualism and healing and things like that, nothing to do with paganism whatsoever, and moved towards paganism as it felt more natural. But linked in with that, even when I was doing the spiritualism, I had all the Arthurian legends and all the teachings that we've got in the Gwers. And I nearly said something that would give away to people in lower grades then that I shouldn't. But I think you know where I'm going. I kind of discovered that life is not a circle, it's a spiral. And you keep coming back around to the same things, but at a deeper understanding.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved how that's worked and how the two have intermingled in places and crossed over. Trying to be very careful here.
What's your dog's name?
Her name is Yana. She was named Tatiana after the Queen of the Fairies, so it's Yana for short. I don't know if you can see her head. Okay.
I can hear her and I can see her. I can see her toe, or not her toe, the tip of her tail occasionally.
I know.
Okay.
Yes, no, they're kind of like big huskies, but they make a noise like the Chewbacca, the Wookiee of Star Wars.
So,
very strange.
Do you have? So you came from. So what brought you? How did you discover? You know, from your spiritualist background, how did you then discover Druidry? What was that pathway for you?
Well, the spiritualist was very strange in that at the time I was diagnosed with a mild form of epilepsy, petit mal as opposed to the grand mal. And at the same time, it coincided with my mum and dad being curious and wanting to attend a spiritualist church to see what happened there. Because they'd heard things, you know, people speak, proof of life, and so on and so forth. So we went, and during the service, which was very good, the medium said, "I would like to speak to you when we finished." And she was looking at me, and I was only 18 at the time. I was quite frightened. And she came over, and she said, "You haven't got epilepsy." She said, "It's spiritual energy that you've got. You've got an excess of it. And because you're not using it, it's working against the body. And it's causing you to have these episodes that feel like panic attacks or blackouts or whatever, that you're just not quite in sync with yourself." So it kind of made sense a bit. And she said to my parents, "Let her come along to my development circle and I'll explain things to her." So I went there, and she said to me, "Now just stand next to one of the ladies there." She said, "And put your hands either side of her body, but don't actually touch. Leave a gap of about 2 inches. And just run the hands down and let me know if you feel anything." So I did, and when I got to about chest level, it was kind of like holding either end of a fluorescent tube of light.
Okay.
And I thought, oh, that's strange. And there was a kind of a magnetic pull, a bit like if you rub your hands like that
Mm.
and, that pull. And so I described it to her and she smiled. She said, yes, I thought that would be it. And then she said, see if you pick it up anywhere else. And so I did it again and I got it in a couple more places. And these were places where this lady had ulcers on her body. And I was picking them up through her clothes. And she said, yes, if you start to use the energy and let it flow, you'll find that you won't have problems yourself. So she invited me to join her development circle, which I didn't realize at the time I had to develop mediumship as well.
Okay.
Because the first time I went the week after, she said, right now, we're all going to sit and say a prayer. We're going to do our healing work, and then we're going to open for mediumship. And I said, pardon? Mediumship? And she said, yes. It's part of your development. It's part of your energy. And we teach you how to use your senses and all the rest of it. So I thought, okay. And long story short, it went. And I ended up getting messages for people, giving them messages from past relatives and things like that. And then after I'd been there a few weeks, I kept getting the urge to try and sketch who the pictures were from that I was getting, but I'd never drawn anything in my life. I didn't even do art at school. But she said, well, why not have a go? What have you got to lose? We're all friends. It's a nice little circle. So I did. The first 2 or 3 weeks, it looked like they'd been done by a 5-year-old. But then after a couple of weeks, they started to take on recognition. And I did my first one that really took me back. It was a young boy who was about 9 or 10, and he was in a choir boy's outfit. And I did the thing he was wearing, and I handed it to the lady that I was trying to get a message for in the circle, and she burst into tears. And that was kind of upsetting. And she said, I must show you next week. You won't believe it. And she brought a photograph in that was an exact replica of the sketch that I'd done. So for me and everybody else in that circle, you can't get better proof than that, can you? It was the spirit of who I said it was.
Wow.
And so that went on for about 3 or 4 years. And I ended up going to different circles, learning to refine that. And I was doing that in the churches in the Midlands for a while until I had my second child and stopped.
It stopped and you stopped.
I stopped working when I was pregnant because I didn't want to do that. And also the medium said to me, you're going to have to make a choice here. Being so young, there's a time to be a mother and a parent, and there's a time to do a job like this, and you need to choose which you want to do. So for the time being, I stopped doing it. I did pick it up again in later years, but I did stop doing it for a while. But yes, that was something that really kind of solidified to me that there is a lot more to life than we actually know about, and that certain people at certain times just can tune in on that vibration and get more information than we think we can. I know there's a lot of people out there that don't believe in things like that, and they say it's all made up, and I would say a good deal of it is by some people. The ex-salesmen make very good mediums. I've met quite a few. They're very persuasive. But there are genuine ones out there as well.
Well,
So that was solid.
I was watching a webinar some months ago, and for the life, my head is gone. I can't remember who, but they have actually looked at this. Scientists have actually looked at this, and they were
Right.
looking at mediumship and messages from the other side. And I cannot remember the names. It's really frustrating me that I can't. But there was a team of people working, and one woman, scientist, had connection with the other side, but she died, and she promised that she would be in touch with them, the living team,
Right.
when she passed, which she was. And they would say, okay, we would like to talk to you. And this would be a scientist who had passed on. And she worked with them through another medium who could draw, just like you did. And she would tell the researchers, yes, I asked social scientists to come, but the artist, the medium artist, wouldn't know. So anyway, they'd be asking the questions, and then the artist would draw the picture, and they'd be able to find, okay, this is the actual replica. And the medium never knew who was coming, and they were able to
Wow.
corroborate it. Yes, because they
Yeah.
say, okay, it's whoever this is. Well, can you draw the picture of him or her? And she
Yeah.
would back it up with a photograph. And I wish I could remember the names. But
Oh, no. It wasn't somebody called Coral Polge, was it? Because she was quite well known back in the 80s, I would say.
this is
Used
only
to do it.
recent research. This is only recent research.
Oh, right.
And
Right.
it's sound research. It's not wackies, you know. And I cannot
Right.
remember
Yeah,
the rest of the thing. And it's gone for me. But
Oh,
it's
right.
really interesting being able to have the artistic skills to be able to draw the person, because anyone, like you say, can say, yeah, I can see it's your mother, and then you kind of, they'll watch you to see if you're getting excited, and then you can actually.
Yeah. Mm,
So it's
yeah.
absolutely fascinating.
But it certainly was. I think, unfortunately, it happened to me a little bit early when I was too young to be able to handle it properly. And it frightened me a little bit because it did take away the doubts. I guess even though I have those abilities, I'm a terrible skeptic. I like things to be proved. I'm awful like that, and my sister would tell you the same. But throughout life, if you think back to how it was in the 80s and 90s, there was an awful lot of skepticism and mockery if you worked in this field. And I wanted to have a normal life and raise children as well. And so I was constantly toing and throwing. When they were older, I would get a normal job in an office doing things like that. But inevitably, I would get some kind of minor ailment, and I would meet somebody that worked at the same firm that I did, that had a tremendous amount of psychic potential, that just needed pointing in the right direction or helping to understand their own abilities. So I've never been able to escape from it. I've spent my whole life running away from it, but it keeps following me wherever I go. So yeah. But then when I got more into the pagan side of it, I was then seeing more with the animal spirits as well, and the spirits of nature. And for my first time ever, 2 years ago, I actually saw a satyr. You know, the goat with the horn. Yeah. And that was with another member of OBOD. I'd gone over to her circle over in Dingle, and we were just in the forest in the woods. And it was Samhain about 3 or 4 years ago. And there was a mist came around where we were. And I thought it was just a male spirit coming out of the trees, but it wasn't.
Wow.
It was more half animal, half. And I wasn't scared. It wasn't coming to me, it was coming to her. And it just bowed down in front of her as if it was giving her a gift, and then backed off. It was beautiful. I've never seen anything like that before.
And did the other
And I
members
thought, well,
were you the only one able to
one
see
of
it?
no, there was another lady could see them, and she saw them for the first time as well. So we think it was the combined energies
Wow.
of the three of us that were there. But it was amazing, because I think, well, if you can see human spirits, you've got to be able to see the others as well. And I've seen many, many animals, obviously, because they've got souls the same way as we have, and you see them. But when I saw that, I thought, Diane, you're losing the plot again. You know, this isn't human. I had to talk to myself for a few minutes with that one. But yes, it did persist, and it was verified. So yeah, the magic's still here over here.
Wow.
But I don't know where to go with it now. I'm kind of, I want to look more into that. But again, it's still on the fringe, and I'm still trying to keep a foot in reality.
What stops you from continuing now, given that you've had so many years experience with it.
Mm.
So what's stopping you now?
I think it's still the fear of ridicule.
Okay.
Even though it's become more acceptable now. And it's interesting because over the last 2 years, I joined a course to learn more about the runes because I've always had an interest in those. And the lady that facilitates that course has kind of had the same mental struggle because she works in college academia. And so she's tried to keep up the one image and
Yeah.
then the woo-woo image, if you like. But she's finding now that she's meeting more facilitators and counselors that are blending the two. It's becoming more normal. And so that's giving me the courage to be a bit more open about maybe doing it and taking it forward and doing it that way. I mean, the runes, again, it's another subject that you could go on for hours about because they're so deep as well.
Mhm.
And learning from them the same way as with Owen. There's so many things that I want to learn about. There aren't enough hours in a day at the moment.
Absolutely. Well, Christopher says fear of ridicule is a serious issue for me in the Bible Belt. Yeah, and that's and it's funny now you're out because you're in public now. It's out.
Yeah,
You've
I
just,
am. I am.
you've
I
just
am.
come
Yes. Yes.
out.
But,
So
but is it not all the same thing? If you think that, I'm starting to think of it now as an energy. It's the life source itself. I mean, God, I don't see as a white-haired bearded man sat up there saying, oh, I like you, you can be rich. I don't like you, you can be poor and struggle. I see God as more the life force itself, that spark of life that's in everything living, in the plants, in the trees, in the animals, in people. That's my God. I'm closer to God outside in the forest than I ever would be in a brick building. And I think that all the religions are they've got one piece of the jigsaw. And we've had to have so many different religions over the years because people understand in different ways. We don't all learn in the same way. Different languages, different cultures. It's not something that should be thought about. It's something to say, hey, yeah, oh, you've learned that way. Show me your way. And, bring it together like jigsaws. And yeah, that's my ideal philosophy, that we would all just see it as it's one massive energy surge, and there are many, many different ways of tapping into it. And it's down to the individual whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. It's a neutral energy, it's a life energy. And over the years, I think, obviously, centuries ago, when people didn't have the scientific knowledge they have now, that they would personify things because it was the easiest way of doing it. A god of thunder, a god of rain, and so on. But that over time, if you concentrate enough energy in a place, you build a kind of thought form, which then takes on a life of its own. And then it grows from there. And it's, I think, one of the most spiritual films ever made is The Never-Ending Story.
Okay.
Because in that film, you're creating life and God and goodness, and they're running away from the nothing. When you stop believing in things, the nothing takes over and everything disappears.
Yeah.
So, God, I've gone really off on a tangent,
Well,
haven't I,
it's
here?
interesting because people are Karen says many years ago I had a horse. I watched in amazement as I saw a spirit wrestle free from the body. I had owned the horse. I had to have a horse put down. Sorry. I watched in amazement as I saw a spirit wrestle free from the body. I had owned the pony for 20 years, so a big part of my life. Now, that is fascinating.
Yeah.
Lisa says, you love to listen to the Modern Fairy Sightings podcast. So, and Linda Jones says, I think you have a gift that you should utilize. So,
Yeah.
you get lots of support from the viewers here about what you're doing.
This is good. This is good.
You know,
I have to, I really want to do more work in this field and work with more people now. But of course, there's an elephant in the room that I haven't brought up yet, isn't there, in my limited time here? For those of you that don't know, I was diagnosed with small cell lung cancer in January. it is one of the worst cancers in that even if they get rid of it with chemo, it will come back and attack you again and again and again. Sadly, it has done, and I've now been moved to stage 4. But given the beliefs that I have, and especially my beliefs in energy, I'm going to look outside of the medical field and use meditation and sound vibration and see how that goes of healing myself. Because there's so many things, as I said, there aren't enough hours in the day that I want to research. I no longer have, I'm not afraid of being on the other side or being here. I'd rather be here, obviously, but it's the how to get from here to there that I am terrified of. So if anybody is struggling with something like that, I'm quite happy to talk about that. I mean, when I was told that it had changed and it had become a fatal diagnosis, I spent 2 weeks absolutely terrified. I was borderline between running around the house screaming and crying and weeping and wailing, and then the sensible bit would come in and say, well, what's the point? It's not going to cure you. The only thing you're going to do is upset yourself more, make yourself sick. So you've got to either do something or don't do something. So all these things I've learned over the years, I'm hoping that I can now bring to my own disposal. And if anyone out there is a healer that would like to give me any advice, please do, to see what we can do and bring this. I mean, I have seen really good doctors, and they've all said the same thing. There's not really anything more that they can do now. Just manage pain and things like that. Touch wood, that's not too bad at the moment.
Good to hear that.
But yeah. So I'm largely spending this year wanting to put together a program, and I've been asked to write 2 books about different spiritual aspects so that people can work from what I've worked and take it further. I mean, I want to look into the animal spirits, where they're coming from, where they're going. But I also want to document some of my life with how I've developed the spiritualism and the paganism side by side and work the two together and how that's possible. So I've set myself quite a busy target for the time I've got.
Absolutely. And hopefully you'll get the time to do it. You know,
I hope so. Well, I don't see why they couldn't give me another 30 years, you know. I mean, what hardship would it be to give me another 30 years? Get all this writing done and do some more research. Would it really be the end of the world?
That's a very interesting one. Yes.
I wanted to make 100. I'll accept 90 something.
Okay. Yeah. It's you know, it's, I mean, we're always getting closer to death, but most of us, well,
Yeah.
I want to be here till I'm 100. I think I will be. Who knows? But
I think you will be as well,
yeah. We need to live as if today is not our last. But it's also important to live as if it is, so that we use the time wisely. Living as long as you can, for as soon as you can, as long as you can. And I know that's what Howard, my husband, did, you know, and that was kind of really helpful for both of us. And he published 2 books in his last 6 weeks. So
did he?
Yeah, and it was stuck, and he died when he was 69. And a year later, what do you call him, died? Major Tom, what's his name? The singer.
Oh, David Bowie.
David Bowie. And he had been working on his last album, and he was, from what I'd heard, that he was really anxious to get that had to be finished before he passed, and he did manage to get it finished.
Right.
And I thought that is really interesting. And I know Leonard Cohen, you know, he released his album 3 weeks before he died, and I got it, and the album, and I thought, he's talking about mortality here. And then when he died 3 weeks later, I thought he knew, but all of these songs were about his journey coming towards the end of his life. And it was just lovely that those 3 people managed to get things completed, even though it would be lovely to live longer, but at least had something achieved. towards the end?
I need to go after, what was his first name? The one who invented the back flower remedies. He was given a fatal
Go
diagnosis,
on. Yeah.
and I think he was only given about a year, and he wanted to get all his remedies done before he died, and he lived an extra 31 years.
Wow.
So flower remedies, that's what I've got to look for, flower remedies.
But I know there are people who do work with, I mean, there's the Bach flowers, but
There
people
are.
make their own. So,
Well, doctors say that a lot of it is positive mental attitude, because if you think about it, your body is an amazing thing. It can heal itself of all sorts. It caused the disease in the first place, so why can't it get rid of it? You know,
that's so
I
true.
just need to give myself a stern talking to. And so, what do you think you're doing?
Yeah, I
But
mean,
yeah, you've got to. But there is, being realistic though, you do have days when you think, oh my God, I'm so scared, I can't. I mean, the day I was told, I turned around to my husband in the car on the way home and I said, oh, well, I don't suppose there's much point in finishing that painting I'm halfway through. And he said, no, you don't want to think like that. And I haven't actually painted this year, to be honest. I've done other things, but I haven't painted.
yeah.
So maybe I need to get back to you do have days, obviously, when you think it's easier to just think, oh my God, I'm scared. Yeah. And those are the hard days. But yeah, they do say don't load up too much.
So, yeah, it's interesting to say, well, what's the point? I'm not going to be here. I'm not, but
Yeah,
I
it's
suppose,
easy to say that.
but it's also about living in the now. So right now is important. So will I pick up my paintbrush or not? Or will I choose those colors? And that this moment is important. And then you go on to the next present moment and so on and so forth. Because
Yeah.
what all you can control right now about what you're doing is right now, either being aware of your breath or picking up your brush, being aware of what tint you're going to use, that that can be like a meditative practice. So she who's not there. But I do know that
Yeah.
when I am panicky, it's like, oh, what can I do? I can focus on my breath.
Yeah.
I can do this little bit.
Yeah.
This is what I can control.
Yeah.
And it's amazing what can happen from that. I mean, I suppose if you're not looking for the outcome, but you're actually looking for the process right now, I'm only just thinking this on the
Yeah.
hoof. I could be talking rubbish, but something
No,
about
you're not.
focusing on the now, this present moment, and then it takes you, if you're always in the present moment, you are always creating something, and it's what's happening right now is important, not the future, not the outcome. And it'll be
That's right.
amazing what does happen. If you're
Yeah.
not invested in the outcome, it's amazing what outcome you'll have. Does that make any sense?
Yeah. Because living in the present moment is actually the only moment that exists. The past is gone and you haven't experienced the future yet. So the present moment is the most important one. Yeah, and if you think about children that have diseases, fatal diseases, they don't think about the future. They're very much in the now, and they tend to cope with it much, much better than adults do. Much better.
Absolutely. Yes. And you're getting lots of encouragement here. I love your bravery. This is from Anita. I love your bravery and your enthusiasm for all the things you have to do. Let nothing stand in your way, not even your diagnosis.
Thank you.
Amon says, I hope you're well. And I think it's, I don't know how you pronounce it, Taimi, Taimi. Don't stop doing things you enjoy to do. You otherwise regret it so much later. Philippa says, enjoy what time you have now. Yeah. So, and I think that's so
Yeah,
important to be able
I
to do.
will. I will. I've actually monitored it. It was very strange because it was an accidental find. I wasn't ill. I mean, I wouldn't call myself ill now. Strange to say. It was. I've not been able to lose weight for years and years, and in the end, I bullied my GP into getting me some stomach tests because I'd been on a 1,200 calorie diet for 2 years and hadn't lost anything, which is
Wow.
ridiculous. So I said, it's not that I'm gaining weight, I'm just not losing. So he sent me for a CT scan on my stomach with the contrast. And the radiographer happened to notice there was a small opacity on my right lung when he was doing it. Now, I'd had a cough for about 3 weeks. I did at the time smoke, I will admit that. And I thought it was just smoker's cough, nothing. I'd had a couple of courses of antibiotics. And then the radiographer said, send her back for a chest x-ray. Sent back for a chest x-ray. They phoned me within 3 days and said, yes, we need to see you. They diagnosed it. I had a 1 centimetre by 3 centimetre tumour. But because of the type of cancer, with it being small cell, it's microscopically tiny. You can't see it until you've got 1 million cells, and then they only make up 1 centimetre on a scan. So they can't operate it. It would be like dust. They would open me up and it would be everywhere. The only chance you've got is chemo and radiation. But they said it is the cancer that is most linked to smoking.
How?
So I gave up the day I was diagnosed. I haven't had one since that day in that office. So if any of you out there are thinking, should I, shouldn't I, give up? Definitely give up with this one. The other chest cancers seem to be easier to cure. Everyone says no about the small one. But yeah, but it was, again, I wasn't ill. But what they did, they took me into hospital straight away and started me on the chemo. And I was in there and it was surreal. My brain just emptied. It was though I was stood in the middle of the North Pole. I had no thoughts, no feelings. I wasn't scared. I wasn't anything. For about 3 months, I just didn't care. I suppose didn't care is that I wasn't capable of caring or feeling any emotion. And I kind of call it my torture in the tundra. So I started a book on it, and I kept notes of every treatment I've had and all the rest of it. And so that, again, that was what started the writing again. And it's gradually, as the feelings come back, I've been, oh no, I preferred it when I didn't think anything. But I've had to face it, as you do eventually.
Yeah.
And now it's, yeah, I'm glad I kept it, because it's sneaky. It's a sneaky one, this one. But I'm holding on to the fact that even yesterday I went into the oncologist's office. I said, my God, you're looking fabulous. You don't look ill at all. Because normally by the time people have got what I've got, they can't even walk.
Wow.
They're bedridden. So something's happening.
Wow.
I just hope it carries on.
Given your Linda Joan suggests astragalus 8 is an Australian product of 8 Chinese herbs. You could get it online as an alternative. You're talking about using it. And then Tara says, send me a friend request on Facebook. I think what you can do is when you go in after this, are you on Facebook?
I am, yes, I am.
You can go into the OBOD Facebook group, and then you'll find this Fireside Chat, and there's you'll find all these comments that you'll be able to access.
Right.
So,
well, what's my sister and husband have encouraged me to do is to do a YouTube channel as well, and do updates each week. My husband is a big Terry Pratchett fan. I don't know if you've read any of his books.
Pratchett is wonderful.
Yeah, the Weird Sisters. He said you just like them because you pluck things from everywhere to do things and don't do anything organized. So I'm going to have a YouTube channel starting next week called Weird Witch. Is it where's he gone? Weird Witch something on YouTube, and I'll carry on journeying about what happens and the daft things that I'm going to get up to during this, if anyone wants to watch it and follow it. I will send you the actual name. I know it's Weird Witch something.
Okay. That is wonderful.
I'm making silly little models as well.
Make what?
I'm going to make silly little models of gnome druids and things doing things, wandering around as well. So raise some extra money for blood tests and things.
So how do you make them? I missed, what do you make them out of?
Polymer clay.
Okay, okay, okay.
Yes, I had. Oh, actually, I have made a little gnome. I don't know how
Oh, very
you'd be able
nice.
to see
Yes,
it,
I can
a gnomey
see.
thing. Oops.
I
I
love
thought
it.
I'd make a few druid ones that you could have in plant pots and pottering around, because somebody said, well, if you're going to use alternative methods of healing, you won't get your HSC blood tests and whatnot. You'll have to pay for them. So I thought, well, I'll make silly little gnomes and sell them
Brilliant.
on Etsy, and I might do it that way.
Absolutely. Well, you're getting encouragement here for your Weird Witch YouTube channel.
I wish I knew where my husband had gone. I could find out what it's actually called. He must be feeding the horses, but I will put it in the chat.
Oh, brilliant, 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 wonderful. So okay, so how did you find Druid? How did you find Obod?
How did I find Obod? How did I find Obod? I think it was during reading all the Arthurian books. I got the whole collection. I even went as far back as getting Lamort Arthur and all the original ones. And then, because of the mentions of Merlin, I then probably started looking at Caitlin and John Matthews' books,
Yeah.
and they mentioned it from there. And I started looking at what Philip was doing, because Philip was kind of making the course on Obod and making it an online course then. And so I joined it in the very, very, very early days when it had just got going. I know the Bardic course has been rewritten, hasn't it? I don't know about the other two. Have they been rewritten now?
They've all been revised, yes. And now we've gone actually
Oh, right. So
online.
I'm terribly out of date.
You're very out of date. The Bardic Grade is now
So it would be no
online.
use. Oh, so it would be no use me reviewing my Druid course that I did back in the 2000s now anyway, then, if
Oh
I
no, you
wanted to be a
can,
tutor.
you can always review. It's always a really good thing to do. So yes.
Right. Yeah, I did enjoy it, but yeah, you know, the hardest one for me I found was Obod. No, Obod. Ovate, sorry. Purely because I've got a really bad memory, and remembering tree names was the
Okay.
hardest bit for me, because I'm brilliant with faces. I never ever forget a person's face, but if you tell me their name 20 times, I will still forget it. And I'm the same with trees. It's really bad, but I did enjoy that one. I love the fact that they're all so different, yet everything weaves together
That's right.
again.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So when you think of how has Druidry supported you um, in your life? I
Oh
mean,
God,
I mean, I don't know how long you've been on this planet,
it's
but when you think through your life since you joined,
64 years,
okay.
64 years. I was diagnosed on my birthday this year.
Oh,
I'm going to change my birthday and have a second one like the Queen if I make it another year. um, I I described Druidry. You may not like this, being the chosen chief, but I would describe it as my favourite pair of slippers,
okay.
or a very
Never mind.
comfortable. You know, when you come in at the end of the day and your bra's a bit tight, and you want to just flop in something comfortable, and you put your slippers on. That's Druidry to me. It's my home. It's my backbone. I started learning it as a way to get away from the strict chakra system of the spiritualism, having to work with the chakras, the openings, the closing, the energies. And I've done some Kabbalistic work as well. That was all very ritual, very
Mhm.
highbrow, whereas Druidry was more get your hands in and get really involved, make that cake, chuck the ingredients in and see it all work and come together. And it's just, I don't know, it's where I live. It's kind of my comfortable place. It's that is so difficult to describe. Does it make sense describing it like
Absolutely.
that?
I'd be interested in hearing comments from our viewers. Yeah, I mean, that wouldn't the least bit offend me that it's a comfortable pair of comfortable slippers. I suppose what
It,
makes it like
it,
that
it,
is we have
yeah.
no rules and regulations and no dogma. that it's a
No.
place that you
No,
can.
that's it. You can be yourself. You can be 100% authentic and nobody judges you for it. It doesn't matter who you are, what you think. Everybody loves you. And it's an unconditional love as well. I mean, I so miss the camps that I used to attend in the UK.
Yeah.
I did try to start them up when we moved over to Ireland because we lived on a farm where the farmer would have had the camps, but I couldn't find anyone to supply yurts and things like that. Otherwise, I would have got it going years ago. Because I remember taking my sister Briar to her first one, and she was very, very adamant. Oh no, I'm not going to. I don't do emotions. I'm not going to go to anything like that. No, I wouldn't do it. And I knew that it would get to her. Something needed to get to her shell. You know how older sisters are always. Well, you're always a bit intimidated, aren't you? You've met her.
I've met her.
And,
She's not I'm an older
yeah.
sister. Not at all intimidating.
Oh, well, she intimidated me, and I got her there, and she had the time of her life, and it was wonderful watching her unwind. And then at the end of it, on the last day, she was running around the tents trying to hide so she wouldn't have to say goodbye to people because she knew she'd be bursting into tears.
Oh,
And she was in floods of tears. And it's the best thing I ever did was seeing my sister open up like that. That warmed my heart. And only Druidry could do that.
oh, that's beautiful.
Only Ogon could do that. It's yeah, it still would cause a lump in my throat that it did that. Because she's a great sister, but she can be a bit uptight at times. It did her the world of good. And it's just, yeah, and it was something we've shared because there's such a big age difference between us.
Oh,
I
okay.
mean, I was only 5 when she got married.
Oh my goodness.
The only memories I have of her was it was during the 60s, you know, when ballroom dancing was very popular. And she's an amazing seamstress, and she used to make herself these big fancy dresses with full skirts and loads of layers of net. And I remember her swanning around the house in those and things like
Wow.
that. But those are my memories of her rather than a sibling that I would play with.
Okay.
So it's only as we got older that we actually really got to know each other. Before that, she was just my bossy sister that used to babysit when mum and dad were out and make me do things they didn't. And I used to wind her up. I used to sneak downstairs and watch her trying to kiss her boyfriends and things like
Oh,
that. So, yeah. And then we grew up together and had great fun.
oh, that is brilliant. Brilliant. That is absolutely wonderful. Oh, is she watching tonight?
She's actually got ukulele practice tonight, so I'm
Oh,
safe,
okay.
but she might watch it on record. She said she'll try to if she can work out how to do it. I know she
Okay.
can. She's better at tech than I am.
There's some comments. There's one from Julia here. The no
Uh-huh.
rules is a blessing and a curse when you're trying to find your way and would like some help. Being told, well, you could do it this way for
Right.
now, would have given me confidence to strike out on my own a lot sooner. Uh,
Yeah.
and I don't know, Julia, do you
It
mean
is
that
and it isn't.
having suggestions? Yeah, it's often a
Yeah.
hard one.
No. I think it's like anything that I would say with raising children. You can give them your advice, but at the end of the day, it's up to them whether they take it or not. And so long as you don't judge them either way, and you're still there to give them the pat on the back or whatever it is they need on trying it that way. Yeah. I think if you want the hard and fast rules, there are other pathways, like I tried with the spiritualism.
Mhm.
But then why not combine them like I did? You know, if you find the hard and fast rules too hard and fast, look at what's out there. Nothing is set in stone at all, I don't think. Life isn't set in stone at all. Everything is movable. And so long as you do things with the right motivation, by all means follow the guidelines. But at the end of the day, depending on how far back you trace things, Somebody made up those rules. How did they know that they were 100% right when they made up those rules? We all have to do a little bit of experimentation along the way.
That's
And
true.
see.
It's interesting you're talking about, giving advice to your children, but even as a parent, making choices. If you're going to say, I'm going to be really strict to my children and keep them safe, there may be a very good outcome, but there are also consequences. You decide to be permissive, there are consequences. Or do you send your children to
There
bed
are.
early, or do you let them choose their bedtime? You either have to get up really early with the ones that go to bed early, or you kind of get. I was permissive. I didn't put them to bed early because I needed to sleep. I'm not an early riser,
Yeah.
and it worked. But that
No, I'm not.
always consequences for whatever whatever road you take, and it's about being able to weigh up which price you're willing to pay. And sometimes there is no great answer.
No. And I think the best advice is be true to yourself. You know yourself. You know what you can live with. You know what you can tolerate. You know what feels right to you. If it feels right, do it. If it doesn't, don't. We always know when we're doing something wrong, and sometimes we'll still take the risk and do it anyway. You just have to be honest with yourself. It's down to personal responsibility at the end of the day. How much responsibility are you willing to take for your actions?
And the thing is, you say, we know what's wrong. Is it wrong for you? Is it wrong for me to do this? Or is it wrong, because the rules say it's wrong? And sometimes it's like, even the rule might say, but whatever the rule says is right, could be absolutely wrong for you. Julie says, now I'm glad I had to decide what I wanted from my path. But coming from culture where religion came with rules was tricky to begin with. Julie, that was my path too. I absolutely understand that.
Yeah.
Coming from Roman Catholic, very rule bound, and to be able to think for myself was one of my regrets is that I didn't wake up earlier. But I knew, but looking back, really, I woke up at the right time. But there's a little part of me wished, couldn't I have woken up a little bit earlier? But
yeah,
our path is our path.
Yeah. I had it a little easier in that I was brought up Church of England Christian, so it was a little more lenient. I think than the Roman Catholic, from what I know of it. I've not got a great understanding of it, but yeah, so it was a little bit more lenient. I still had to go to Sunday school every Sunday though until I was about 14. My parents were quite strict about that.
I used to feel sorry
But then I like the yeah, but I kind of like the vicar's son anyway, so I didn't mind it too much.
Okay. There's always an incentive.
Yeah, quite a cute son, yeah.
No, we used to have to
There's
go to
a
mass
silver
on
lining in everything.
Yeah, we used to have to go to mass on Sunday. I used to feel sorry for Protestants having to go to Sunday school, because the idea of, well, I think it's the word school on Sunday. I thought, oh my God,
It's that nasty word, isn't
it's that
it?
nasty word.
School, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But Lisa
And
says
yet when you're an adult, you can't wait.
that's right.
Sorry,
So
go on.
Lisa says the Druidic path causes you to develop your intuition, which can be difficult to trust at first, but it is so important or so empowering in the end. And it's always that. And I suppose this is what the Gwers encourage is, just play with this. Just, if this exercise feels right, here is an invitation to. If it feels right, just do it and see, and maybe go back and revisit.
Yeah,
It's about
a
you
spiral.
testing everything, trying everything, and seeing if it works. If it doesn't, you stop. And if it does, you go.
Yeah. It's like when you try a new food or drink. If you like it, have it again. If you don't. There's no two Druids that are the same, I wouldn't
No,
say. I mean, the core foundation is, but then we develop our own way of living it, don't we?
absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
depending what suits us, which slippers fit best. Yeah.
Exactly. So, what would you say has been your greatest achievement in your life?
Oh, oh, oh my God. That's a hard one.
What are you most
Do
proud
you
of?
mean on a spiritual? What am I
Whatever.
most proud of? That I've never lost interest and stopped learning, I think.
Yeah.
That I feel that if life is that long and you can cram that much into it, then you've done quite a good job. I mean, I've done many things in my life. I've done archery, I've done medieval reenactments, and I've shot flaming arrows off horses, and you name it, I've tried it. So I've always been the kind of person that would have a go at things, or if I wanted to know something, I will go and find out. I mean, I've always had a terrible fear of flying. I don't know why, because all my family's RAF, but I was terrified of flying. So until the age of 50, I'd never been in a plane. I'd never been out of the UK apart
Wow.
from on ferries. And rather than go for a fear of flying lesson that you pay a lot of money for and you have psychologists and whatnot there, I thought, no, that's not my way. I'll go for a flying lesson. It's only 50 quid. It's cheaper than the 250. I would be in control, and I could land the plane when I wanted if I'm flying it. So I had a flying lesson and got over my fear of flying that way. So I was quite chuffed with that one.
One
Because the
lesson.
next week, one flying lesson, yeah.
Wow.
The next week, I flew up to Scotland with my husband, and it was great. It was the first time I'd flown in my life.
Well, wait a second. Sorry. Just hold on. You did one flying lesson, and then the
Yeah.
next week
And
you
then I
flew.
was able to fly the next week
Oh,
as a
as
passenger, not as
passenger.
a pilot. Oh, yes. Oh, God, I didn't learn that quick. I'm a quick learner, but not that quick. No, but I've always the saddest thing I ever heard was when we first moved over here. We stayed with some friends, and she was a lovely lady, but very kind of immature. She'd had quite a sheltered upbringing, same age as me, and she said to me, "Oh, you know, at the time I think I was dyeing my hair reds and
Mhm.
other colours." She said, "Oh, I love the colour of your hair, but I would never do anything like that." And I said, "Why not?" She said, "Because what would people think?" And I said, "Pardon?" She said, I wouldn't be able to because of what other people would think. And I thought, what a sad way to live a life.
Mhm.
It's your life. At the end of the day, it's your life. If you don't live it, who's going to? And
Exactly.
if you do always do what other people tell you to do, then you haven't lived your life. You've just done what other people have told you to. And yeah, and even again, that came into the cancer when I met my oncologist. He gave me the long list of horrible side effects from the chemotherapy. He said, "Now, I would quite understand if you don't want the treatment because you will go bald." And I thought, "Does it grow again?" And he said, "Well, yes, eventually, but you will go bald." And is over 40% of people say no because they don't want to go bald.
Okay.
And in this day and age, I think that's heartbreaking because there are so many beautiful wigs out there, so many other ways of handling it. You would rather die than not have hair. People need to realize that life is valuable, life is precious, and you've got to live it for yourself at the end of the day. I'm going to go sliding in there absolutely knackered when it's my turn, having lived an outrageous life as possible. I'm not going quietly. That's why I'm not going yet. I refuse.
Oh, that is just wonderful. So, what would you say has been the most reckless thing you've done?
Most reckless. Well, my mum and dad would say getting on the back of a motorbike when I was 18 with a group of bikers and going off on a bike. Oh, it was fun though. I did it many times. Possibly also, yeah, that was one of the big ones up there. But also going to Spain on my own for 2 days a couple of years ago. Even I wouldn't have thought I'd done that. But a friend of mine that I used to work with, I used to be on a psychic TV show many years ago doing
Okay.
readings. And one of the presenters I worked with had booked a gig in Spain and he was unable to fulfill it. And the club was struggling to find another psychic to go in at the last minute and do it. And he begged me to do it. And this was only about a month after I'd had that flying lesson. And he said, would you travel out there on your own and just do the night for me? And I said yes. I was crying on the phone. I was so nervous and my knees were knocking, but I said yes. And I went out there. I arrived on the Friday, tiny little village in Spain, never having been out of the UK. No, not many people spoke English, did the gig and came back home the next day. And even my family were like, I can't believe you did that. I said, no, neither can I, but I did. So if you catch me at the right moment, I can be a daredevil.
Wow. I mean, that's some achievement. That is some challenge that you overcame, your fear of flying, and then to go off on your own.
Yeah, it was
Not
a
long
bit of a
after.
big one.
I
Yeah, I
mean,
think as I've got older, I've got more daring.
so Philippa says, I admire your wonderful way of being. Uh, and
Oh,
Karen
thank
says,
you.
she says she'll never look at her slippers in the same way again.
You have to put the Druid symbol on them. We'll have to design a range of slippers, Eimear, with the Druid symbol on them.
There's something else, another thing to add to your to-do list.
Yeah.
So,
Oh God, notes is getting longer.
do you have any regrets?
Do I have any regrets? Yeah, not doing more.
Okay.
I do. Yeah, I do. I do have regrets. Of course, I do. Everybody does. Chances not taken, risks not taken, more so than anything. My biggest one is, I mean, I smoked when I was younger, when I was 18, 19, because in those days, everybody
Everybody.
did. I I gave up when I was 21, when I had my first child. When I knew I was pregnant, I gave up. And then when I was in my husband didn't, he carried on. But then when I was in my 40s and he met somebody else and we got divorced and I was single, I started smoking again because all the single people I mixed with were smoking. That is a big regret. I really wish I hadn't done that. Because it was just following the crowd, not wanting to be the odd one out. It wasn't a choice, it was kind of peer pressure. And I think that was rather stupid of me,
Mm-hmm.
but you live and learn, don't you?
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
So, what are you grateful for in your life?
All the opportunities I've had and the wonderful people I've met. I mean, I've met some crazy people because I started playing the drums when I was 16 and I was working as a musician with my father. I got to meet, dare I say it, the Bay City Rollers. They were quite famous back in the 70s.
I
They were
remember that.
family friends before they became really well known. They used to sleep on our lounge floor when they were appearing in Manchester, so I got to know them, and
With their tartan.
lots of
Yes.
other musicians. Yeah.
Wow.
And I used to do a lot of ballroom dancing, things like that. I loved doing that.
What was
Yeah,
your favorite dance? What
lots
was
of things.
what was your favorite ballroom dance?
I actually like the rumba. It's the one they always say on Strictly Come Dancing that it's the hardest to do, but I really enjoyed it.
The
I
dance
enjoyed it
itself.
very, very much. Yeah. And the jive. But the problem was there was a big difference between the jive that you learn with ballroom dancing and the jive that you learn with rock and roll.
That's right.
And if you do one, you can't tend to do the other. And
Yeah.
so the only person I could actually do the jive with was my dad. And my mum always wanted to dance with him. So we were kind of competing if we were ever out anywhere. He had to do both of us. Poor old guy was absolutely shattered.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Brilliant.
Uh, but yeah, had some great times. I mean, I still intend to have a few great many more yet.
Good. Absolutely.
I hope.
Absolutely. All right. Wonderful. So,
But and
go on.
also I've met some amazing people in Obod too. Some amazing characters that I would never have met otherwise. People just off the top of my hat, Ronald, Anna,
Yeah.
Philip, yourself, Adrian. There's so many fantastic people from all walks of life that if it wasn't for Obod, I would never have met them. And I've learned so much from people like that. you know. And I'm so envious of Adrian. If you can find out, I've tried asking him, he won't tell me what the secret of his skincare ritual is, because he's got beautiful skin, hasn't he? Absolutely flawless skin. I'm so jealous every time I see.
Yes, Adrian was a
Oh,
guest.
yeah.
He was a Fireside guest. Oh, it must have been over a year ago.
Oh, wow.
It was one where we laughed and
Right.
laughed and laughed. He's a wonderful man.
He is. There's so many characters. There really is. Yeah. Life's good. It's great. It's to be enjoyed, and no way am I giving up on it yet. And I'm sure that's part of what's going on with me. You know, it's no, I'm not ready yet. I've got another 30 odd years worth of more druids that I haven't met yet. Yeah. And we've got to get everyone wearing the red lipstick. I've got to grow my hair again. Oh, I have something. If it's still there, I have to show you. Wait a minute.
Okay.
Oh no. Husbands, they're a pain. They've tied it up. When I was diagnosed, they said to me, "You can have a wig, and because it's your first wig on HSC, you don't have to pay for it. So you can go to any hairdressers and choose one yourself." And I've always liked long hair. I think it's a throwback to the 70s. I like men with long hair. I've got serious hair envy with you. Mine's always been fine and never really gone much past about there. So I was looking at the wigs and they were showing me these kind of shoulder length sensible bobs, and I don't really like that one. There was a grey one with green roots that I was quite interested in. But then she showed me this wig and it was hip length and it was layered.
Yeah.
A long blonde hip length layered wig, and I looked at it and I thought, well, I'm 64 now. Even if I survive this, I'm not going to live long enough to grow it that long, and definitely not that thick. So I now have long, thick blonde hair whenever I want it. It was in a box over there, but he's tied it away. So I've got the long, luscious hair I always wanted as well.
Well, when I met Briar, she had long hair.
Yes, yeah,
And then she cut
yeah.
it. Yeah, yeah. So
You know what I can't figure out? Briar's hair, her natural colour is a very deep chocolate brown, like a dark chocolate.
okay,
And yet her grey hair has gone white.
that's right.
I'm a natural blonde borderline red, and my grey is coming out quite dark. It's like I would say mine's more of a dust colour than anything else. Something that
Right.
you'd wipe off the top of your shelf. So why have I got the darker grey and she's got the lighter grey? It just seems no justice at all.
And I was a
And
redhead.
then she said, yeah, that's why yours white, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then she said to me as well, she said, I've always hated you because Mum wanted a daughter with beautiful blonde ringlets, which of course I had. And Briar's hair was pencil straight. And I don't know if you can see, but it's coming back still curly. She
Lovely.
said to me yesterday, "You bitch, I hoped it had come back straight. How dare you grow up curly hair again?" So she's still bossing me about.
So, just it, thinking of the world, just the modern world, what concerns do you have about the modern world?
Oh, seriously? Seriously? You want me to answer that? I
One concern.
worry. Okay. I worry that things have gone kind of too much topsy-turvy. The pendulum has swung. Because whether it's because, like I said, the musician background, the arty farty background, all my life I have mixed with people from all races, all sexualities, all colours. And to me, they've always just been normal people. I've grown up with best friends who were gay couples and things like that. Never thought anything of it. But now it seems to be that people are trying to force it too much, force the issues too much, and make it harder for them, not better. I mean, it's hard to put into words. And why should there be prejudice because people's skin's different colour and they believe that? This worries me. That all
what
these hardships are coming in.
so which hardships in particular are you saying that it's making it harder for people to be themselves?
Because I suppose it's possibly me, because I've grown up thinking people are people and live and let live, consenting adults, whatever, and different backgrounds makes no difference. We're all people, we're all human beings. We should all be treated the same. But now, because everybody's finding boxes to categorize people in, oh, you're this, or you're that, or you're the other, you're not just a person anymore. You've got an added label that complicates things. And I saw it. I used to be a policewoman for about 8 years.
You're
And I saw
replacing it
it.
as well.
Yeah. I saw it coming in then when we got a big teaching on diversity and things like that. Why can't people just be people? Why do we have to pick on each other for nothing? Insignificant things, I've never liked fanaticism. Is that the word where I should be going with this? Things go too far, people become fanatical about things, and then the hatred comes in, and I just don't like nastiness like that. I don't see the point in it. Why should someone have to say to me, oh, I'm gay, or oh, I'm this, or I'm that? It's none of my business. That's private, personal business. What you do behind closed doors is your own business. Yet now you've got to justify it. It seems we interfere too much in other people's lives, and I worry about that. I worry about how it's going to affect children growing up, that they have to treat people differently because they're called something different, because they've been given a new label. Does that make sense, what I'm saying? Or have I got it all too wistful now?
Are you concerned about people giving themselves a label or being given a label by somebody else?
A bit of both, to be honest. A little bit of both. Because you shouldn't have to feel that you've got to justify your own existence. You just being you should be enough.
That's so
you
true.
are who you are. And that's all you ever need to be, the person that you are. Nothing else. You don't need to justify it or label yourself. You are who you are, and the person you are is wonderful. There's only one of you. You should be celebrated, not hated or, I don't know how else to say it.
Yes, and so you're worried. So what gives you hope then? Or do you have any hope for the modern world?
It's getting slimmer, I have to say. I'm seeing a great lack of common sense. Too many petty arguments about things that don't really, at the end of the day, matter. Getting worked up about things that don't really matter. And not dealing with the bigger issues.
I'm wondering, does the fact that you've had a terminal diagnosis really bring this to the forefront about what is really, really important in life, given that, you've been given
a
terminal diagnosis?
I have.
I know you're not buying it. You're
That's
going
a good
to
question.
beyond it. Does the fact that you've been confronted with this kind of wake you up to what is really important in life?
It does, actually. And I'm glad you've asked, because it's a question I have asked myself as well. Because, yes, it does. On the one side, I can take I might not have to put up with it for much longer route, which is totally selfish and not who I am anyway. But, yeah, it does, because I'm concerned for what will happen to people in the future if people go on being cruel to each other. The line has got to be drawn somewhere. There really has.
It's
you hear so many stories conflicting stories. I mean, in certain areas not too far away from here, I know that hotels are rubbing their hands with glee because Ukrainian families are being put in all their empty rooms. There's then outcries locally from people who are saying that the Ukrainians are getting more social security and more things than people that live here. So all that's creating bad feelings. And why are things being done in a way that has to create bad feelings?
Mhm.
You know, where's the common sense? Where's the fairness? You know, if Irish families are not getting what they need, why aren't they getting the same as the Ukrainian families? You know, why can't everybody be having the same?
Mhm.
We're all people.
It's
I
funny.
feel like a broken record. We're all people. We're all the same.
Philippa says, I completely agree. People are people. Leslie says, what amazing lady. I think I'm in love. I wish we could have met years ago. This is Leslie, who was in Armagh. And then
Oh,
Tammy, I don't know how to pronounce your name. I fully agree. But I think our age group is the last one who shares you or our point of view. Maybe. I hope you're wrong. I hope
maybe.
you're not right. And then seriousness with these concerns. For me, it happened a little over 20 years ago, and these concerns remained. I'm just interested in what has become really important to you now compared to what you thought was important before you had your diagnosis.
Family and friends.
Okay.
Family and friends, definitely. Very much so. Before I thought it was making something of myself, doing more with my life, achieving more. Whereas now it's I want to be with my family and friends. At the moment, things are tricky. I would like to spend more time in the UK because my sister's over there. I have a brother in his 80s who's over there that I haven't seen since before COVID.
Oh.
And he will not Skype or use Zoom or anything like that. He's so stuck in the mud. He refuses to have social media on his computer. And I don't know how long I'm going to be able to travel for, be fit enough to do that. So, yeah. Family very much. And my youngest daughter, she has a 4-year-old that I was really hoping to see grow up. Because with my elder daughter still being in the UK, I didn't see as much of her two children growing up. I didn't see them when they were babies. I've only maybe seen them 5 or 6 times in their whole life, and they're teenagers now. So I feel like I've missed important bits, you know. I've got horses and ponies here that I wanted my grandchildren to ride. I don't know that will happen. Things like that, you know, the emotional stuff. At the end of the day, that's what matters. Even if you have family rifts and things like that, there comes a time when you realise that no, actually, you know, those things need healing. Nothing's ever that serious. Well, I didn't ask for your opinion. Will you please shut up?
It's
Yeah.
relationships. I mean, yes.
Yeah, it is relationships. It is. And I want to get out more and see as many people as I can while I can. Yeah, it's definitely that.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So what 3 things would you like to leave behind in 30 years' time when you decide to go?
In 30 years' time. Oh, in 30 years' time.
It's like it's
Terrible reputation.
reputation. Okay.
No, in 30 years' time, I'd like to read some books that are worth reading, and that hopefully will make people sit up and think, well, yeah, why don't I have a go at this and see what they can achieve? I'd love to be able to see what other people can achieve if they try the same kind of things that I did, what results they get. What else? I don't think I'm going to be the next Leonardo da Vinci or anything like that, so I'm not going to be leaving any great masterpieces of artwork behind. Okay, ones maybe, but nothing like that. What do I want to leave behind? something that will help people stay curious and want to carry on learning the way that I do. Something that will always keep the mind searching for, what can I do? How far can I push myself?
What do you think that might be?
I actually really do think there's going to be a big breakthrough in the way we heal people. I
Okay.
really do, because I have a lot of faith in sound, whether it's because of the musical background, things like that. But so much has been done with sound. The fact that an opera singer can pitch their voice and shatter a glass makes me think that you could get the right sound to shatter a kidney stone or things like that.
Wow. Has that been done yet?
Potential. I'm not sure. I think I've heard there's been trials on it, but wouldn't it be wonderful if they do pursue things like that, rather than going more and more the chemical route? If we can make use of the more natural resources to heal things, because I still think that the human body is designed to be healthy. We, by the decisions we make, the way we live our lives, our thoughts, I don't know, are what cause it to have disease, this illness. When I was very, very first taught healing, I was told that everything in life, everything that exists, started in someone's imagination, and that everything is made up of vibrating atoms that just solidify to form shapes, and we have what we have. So that being the case, if your body is made up of vibrating atoms, obviously we've each got our own personal rhythm. If an illness or a disease is something where a group of atoms is just vibrating out of sync with the rest of them, and you can somehow jerk them back into your own rhythm, then surely a cure would be possible. And is that in some way linked up with a sound that you would make yourself using your own voice? Because that's got to be the key to you, hasn't it? I was told I was tone deaf as a child, so I never sing unless I'm in the shower. But if the key is anything, it's going to be within your own DNA, isn't it? Your own sound. So if you can learn sound healing yourself, maybe that's worth exploring. And that's what I'm kind of looking at the moment.
I find what an empowering thing to be able to find your own sound to bring about your own healing. So you say you're going to explore that. Have you avenues to be able to look at how you can create a sound? Do you know of where you can go with it, or you know where you can take this idea?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I mean, I've recently started doing a course on radical self-nourishment by a sound therapist who works in Toronto. She does the courses online, and she uses her voice in healing. So I've noticed the last two meditations where we've used Sanskrit mantras. I've noticed that has affected the pain and energy levels in my body when I've used them.
Wow. So when
And
you're
that's quite
chanting,
excited me. Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Because we did one last night. I had a really heavy day yesterday, which I was dreading because I went over for a second opinion in Cork. I had to have radiation and a couple of other appointments. And so I wasn't looking forward to doing the course, but I made myself do it. I was quite sore and tired. But by the time I'd done this Sanskrit mantra a few times, I felt energized.
Wow.
And it was almost as good as an hour's sleep. And I thought, yeah, there's got to be something in this. And there's so many people that have looked into the Tibetan singing bowls and things like that. People wouldn't waste all this time if there wasn't something in it. It's just, can I find it in time?
Yes. Tammy says they shatter some kidney stones with ultrasound. And then
Wow. All right.
Buddhist studies think include humming sounds. And Philippa says, I've had sound healing. It helped with arthritis pain. She was using tuning forks. And I know
Right.
arthritis pain is quite angry pain. And if sound healing will work with that, because I know if people who've had arthritis and
Yeah.
incredible pain and having to take
Yeah.
painkillers a lot. I remember being at one druid camp. It wasn't a no-bout one. It was, is the Rainbow Camp.
Mhm.
And it was a no-bout member. Oh God, her name's gone for me. Susan, isn't it? And she did a sound healing session, and she asked us all to say anyone had a pain, and I had a pain in my knee, and so and just to say where it was. So as she was doing the sound healing, I could feel her, and I just love sound. Just
Yeah.
she came around, and I could hear the sound was amplified around my knee, and it really, really helped. So yeah, but I'm really intrigued with the idea of finding your own sound from within. Now that
Yeah.
is,
Because it's your own DNA then, isn't it? That you're using. So I have that. You get that germ of an idea and you think, I'm onto something here. I kind of got that.
well,
Yeah.
it's so hopefully that you can find something. I think that would be really, really fascinating to be able to do that.
It would, especially if it worked, and then I could use it to help other people as well. That'd be amazing.
That's right.
Yeah.
So who
I
knows?
mean, yeah, who knows what the future holds?
I'm really struck by your energy, and your optimism, and that having gone through the grief that you did earlier, and the fear and all of that just kind of
Oh,
coming through that and coming out to not giving up yet. And I don't hear you fighting.
no,
I hear you
mm,
forging ahead with that optimistic
yeah.
uh, outlook.
I mean, I'm sure I will have days when I'm tired and I think, oh my God, I'm really, really, really scared. And that's fine. And as I said earlier, if anyone ever wants to have a chat, is feeling like that, I'm more than happy to talk to people about it because one of the things I did find, and it's a result of the COVID, was when I was first diagnosed, I was told that under normal circumstances, when people get a cancer diagnosis, they get access to psychologists quite quickly, that
Yeah.
they can talk to and people like that. But because of COVID, there just isn't the resources anymore.
Oh
And so
dear.
people haven't got people to talk to, and that they're having to find their own ways of dealing with things. But they do give you access to these other courses. So you can find things that way. And like you yourself gave me a handout that was very, very helpful of doing the exercises and the breathing exercises.
Yes.
And that I found helped.
Okay. Brilliant.
Yeah. And that helps a lot because when I had my panic moments, I grabbed that and I worked through that.
That was the capacitor.
And that was very good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That really helped. So it was great to have that. And yeah, and I do find that if you can talk to somebody else about it, it helps. I mean, doctors and palliative care nurses with the best will in the world, they don't know how terrifying it is. Nobody does until they're given the diagnosis. We all know we've got an expiry date, but it's something we keep way at the back of our
Yeah.
mind. But then, yeah, when it's suddenly waved in front of you, oh, well, here's yours, it's like, oh, no, I can't handle this. And it's just a natural reaction. It's, yeah, you have to find ways.
Oh,
You do have
absolutely.
to find ways.
So, can I have your email address so if people want to contact you?
Yes, of course. It's Diane Howe, Howe,
Okay, I'm just going to write it in. Diane How WE.
art, ART. I still live in hopes of being a famous artist one day.
Okay.
Diane Howe Art
Yes.
at hotmail.com.
Diane Howard. Okay. Great.
at
I'll put that up into
hotmail.com.
the chat so that people, if they want to, because I know somebody said to contact her.
Yeah. And I have got a Facebook page, the same name, Diane Howe, on
Okay, great.
Facebook.
Oh, lovely, lovely.
I've even got an art page.
So
Yeah.
we're coming to the end of our time. So I'm going to ask you, these are always my final questions. What's your favorite season of the year? And what is your favorite ceremony to mark the Wheel of the Year?
Well, we've just had my favourite ceremony, Samhain. I love Samhain. I always have. There's something darkly romantic about it, I find. I know it's a strange one, but yes, darkly romantic. I think it's all the stories of Gwyn Afneath, is it from? Yeah, and Adrian used to play him so well. Do you remember when he did him at camps?
I
And
never went to a
he
camp.
would play.
Yeah.
Oh, he was amazing. He used to wear the hoof, the furry legs and the
Oh, yeah.
horns and everything. He actually went in Tesco's to do some shopping dressed like that one time. You want to ask him about it? Yes. So yeah, that was always a favourite. My favourite camp. I love that one. My favourite time of year would have to be late spring, early summer. I like when the grass has started growing and the primroses are appearing and everything's starting to get colourful. I like that.
Okay. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So Tammy says, Diane, lots of energy, inspiration, and blessings to you on your path.
Thank you.
So I'm just going to thank you so much for this wonderful chat. I've just realized I haven't live streamed this on YouTube. I've just realized that. No, so apologies. We're going to have to somehow upload it onto YouTube.
How are people managing to ask questions?
Because they're on Facebook as well. We do both Facebook and I don't know how I missed it.
All right. So we'll have to do another one at some later date.
Well, it's been an absolute joy chatting to you. And so I'll let you say goodnight and then I'll send you backstage, but don't go away so that we can just do a little debrief afterwards. Right. So you can say goodbye to people.
I will. Goodbye and thank you for watching, everybody. And I will let you know what my strange YouTube channel is going to be called. And hopefully we'll keep up the chats in the coming weeks. Nice to meet you all. Bye-bye.
Okay, Diane. Chat to you in a minute. So thank you very much. I've just realized our YouTube viewers are not here anyway. Hopefully I can upload this to the YouTube channels. So thank you all for your lovely comments and joining in the discussion. I really, really appreciate that. And just to remind you, we are having our own online Samhain ceremony at 7 o'clock on this Saturday, and at 7 o'clock UK time. For those of you for elsewhere, we have changed the clock, so we're now in winter time. So I look forward to seeing you then. And until then, see you next week as well. Oh, no, I won't be here next week. I'm going to a conference, but I will see you in 2 weeks. So until then, slán go fóill.